The silent dawn of an ancient world. How civilization began where silence ruled the earth. Before words found voices, before the first spark of thought turned into fire, there was silence. A vast, endless quiet that wrapped the newborn earth like a shroud. Mountains slumbered beneath mist, rivers moved without song, and the wind drifted without whisper. In that timeless hush, the world waited for something it did not yet understand: the sound of life. From the heart of that silence, the first rhythm began, the soft beating of the earth itself. Volcanoes stirred, spilling warmth into the frozen air. The soil trembled with a pulse, awakening seeds buried deep within. Slowly, green tendrils reached toward the dim sun, and the world took its first breath. The forests that grew were ancient and unknowing, their roots tangled in secrets older than memory. Ages passed. From the dust and stone, creatures emerged, first timid, then fierce. They filled the silence with the rustle of leaves, the echo of steps, and the calls of hunger. Yet still, no one spoke, for words had not been born. The earth was alive, but mute, and its stories slept beneath every footprint. Then came the dawn that changed everything. Along the banks of a great river, one whose name no tongue yet knew, a small band of humans built their first fires. They were wanderers of the wild, guided by stars and storms, but something stirred within them, a hunger not for food, but for meaning. They began to shape stones, not just for survival, but for thought. They carved patterns, painted walls, and stared into the flames as if seeking answers in the light. And one night, a single sound broke the ancient silence, a voice, soft, uncertain, but alive. A mother calling her child, a name, the first word. It echoed into the darkness like the first bird's cry after endless winter. That word carried power, the power to remember, to dream, to build. It was the birth of civilization. The people of that silent dawn learned to share their thoughts through speech, to bind together through stories. They marked time, worshipped the sun, and raised stones toward the heavens. Their settlements became villages, their fires turned to cities. The river that once flowed through wilderness now carried the reflections of temples and towers. The silence that once ruled the earth faded into a hum, the sound of humanity awakening. Yet even as the noise of life grew louder, a trace of that first silence lingered, in the pause between heartbeats, in the quiet before dawn, in the stillness of forgotten ruins. It reminds us that before we spoke, before we built, before we dreamed, the world was silent. And in that silence, the seed of civilization was sown.
Long before kings wore crowns or priests raised their hands to the heavens, there were tribes, scattered clusters of humans clinging to survival in a silent and untamed world. They lived beneath the wide, whispering sky, surrounded by forests that breathed, rivers that sang, and mountains that seemed to guard ancient secrets. In those early days, power was not given, it was felt, a strange pulse that bound people together through fear, awe, and wonder. The first leaders were not chosen by birth or by blood. They were the ones who could speak to the storm, predict the hunt, or calm the crying of a child when thunder cracked across the sky. Their words carried weight, not because they ruled, but because the people believed they knew. It was this belief, invisible and fragile, that began to shape the first forms of power. Every tribe had its own totem, a symbol of strength and mystery. Some carved a wolf's head into wood, others painted the wings of an eagle across cave walls. The totem was more than art, it was the tribe's soul, their spirit protector. Around it they gathered during the darkest nights, chanting songs that told of creation and courage. When the fire burned low and the stars hung heavy above, they believed the spirits of the totems watched over them, guiding, protecting, and sometimes warning. In one ancient valley, the tribe of the Red Hand rose to prominence. Their totem was a great stone bear, its surface scarred by lightning. The elders said it was a gift from the sky, a mark that their people were chosen. The chief, a man named Aruk, claimed he could dream through the bear's eyes. In his visions, he saw the movement of herds, the coming of rain, and even the faces of rival tribes. Whether by chance or wisdom, his predictions were true more often than not, and so the people believed. But belief, once born, hungers for form. Aruk's son, Dren, grew up not with wonder, but ambition. He saw how people bowed before his father's words and how fear could be turned into obedience. When Aruk died, Dren declared that the bear was not only a protector, it was a god. He built a stone circle around it, demanded offerings, and said only he could hear the bear's voice. The tribe obeyed, trembling beneath the weight of new faith. Thus began the first great transformation, when leadership became power, and power became sacred. Other tribes followed. Totems turned into idols, chants into prayers, and chiefs into kings. What began as reverence for nature became the birth of rule, belief, and control. No one remembered when it happened, when humans stopped speaking to the spirits and began speaking for them. But somewhere, deep within that forgotten dawn, the world of faith and power took its first breath. And from that breath rose everything that followed: temples and thrones, crowns and wars, and the endless human desire to believe in something greater than themselves.
Before paper carried words and before ink preserved memory, the world spoke through stone. The earliest cities, built from rough hands and bound by hope, were alive with silent voices. Their walls were not mute, they whispered, they remembered, and they endured. In the heart of a sunlit desert stood one such city, Elorum, known now only to wind and sand. Its walls were carved from pale limestone, each block etched with strange patterns, spirals, eyes, and lines that danced like rivers. The people of Elorum believed the stones could listen. Every morning they pressed their palms against the walls and told them their dreams, fears, and secrets. "The stones remember," they would say. "They guard what we cannot." At the center of Elorum rose the Hall of Echoes, a vast circular chamber where sound seemed to linger unnaturally. A whisper spoken there would repeat itself, soft and distant, as if the stone itself were speaking back. The elders claimed these echoes were the voices of ancestors, builders and dreamers who had merged with the city after death. Children would laugh and shout to hear their own voices return, unaware that perhaps they were not alone. Among the city's masons was a woman named Tira, whose skill in shaping stone was unmatched. She could carve faces so lifelike they seemed to breathe in the torchlight. One evening, as she worked in solitude, she heard a faint murmur coming from the walls she was chiseling. At first she thought it was the wind, but then it spoke, not in words, but in feeling. Sorrow, fear, longing. The wall was trying to tell her something. Night after night, Tira returned, listening. The whispers grew clearer. The stones told of storms that would come, of water drying beneath the sands, of people forgetting the old songs. When she tried to warn the elders, they dismissed her. "The walls repeat what we put into them," they said. "They are memory, not prophecy."
But Tira knew better. The stones were alive with truth, and truth is rarely gentle. Seasons passed, and the skies changed. The great river that had fed Elorum began to vanish, swallowed by drought. The people prayed to their carved gods, but the whispers only grew more desperate. One night, a tremor shook the ground. The Hall of Echoes cracked open, splitting its dome like an egg. In the moonlight, Tira saw faces carved within the broken stones, faces she had never made. Hundreds of them, silent and watching. By morning, the city was gone. The desert took Elorum grain by grain, burying its whispers beneath endless dunes. Yet the voice of stone never truly dies. Travelers who camp among those ruins still claim to hear murmurs in the night, faint echoes that tell of forgotten lives and the weight of memory carved in rock. And so the world learned, long before books and scribes, that every city is a living thing. Its stones hold laughter and grief, faith and ruin. They remember everything we try to forget. The walls speak, if only we listen.
Before the world had names for continents and kings, there was only the river, vast, silver, and eternal. It wound through valleys and forests, carving a living path between mountains, carrying whispers of rain and silt from lands unknown. To those who lived along its banks, it was more than water. It was a god. The people called it Uranus, the dream river. They believed every drop that touched their skin held the memory of the world's beginning. When children were born, their first bath was in its waters. When elders died, their ashes were returned to its current. The river was life, and life was the river. From this sacred waterway rose the Empire of Dareth, a civilization built not on conquest, but on flow. Its cities shimmered along the river's curve, each connected by boats carved from cedar and painted with spirals that symbolized eternity. The capital, Varun, stood where the river split into 7 veins, a city of marble towers, floating gardens, and bridges woven from golden reeds. Every spring when the river flooded, the people rejoiced. They called it the Rising of Dreams. The soil drank deeply, fields blossomed, and fish returned in shimmering waves. The emperor himself would wade into the current barefoot, scattering petals as priests sang hymns to Uranus. It was said that the river blessed those who honored it and punished those who forgot. But blessings often turned to burdens. Over time, Dareth grew greedy. The priests taxed the river's trade, the nobles built dams to hoard water for their estates, and the emperor ordered channels carved deep into the desert to feed new cities. The river, once free, was forced to obey. Then came the drought. In the dawn of forgotten ages, when the earth was still young and the stars had not yet learned their names, there was a land made of dust and flame. Its people called it Areth, the realm of endless sun, where mountains bled gold and the wind carried whispers of gods long buried beneath the sand. Every night, the elders of Areth gathered around fires that burned with red smoke, telling tales of the gods of dust and fire, the 2 divine forces that ruled the hearts of men. The god of dust, they said, was patient and silent, shaping mortals from the earth and teaching them humility. The god of fire, fierce and radiant, gave them passion, courage, and the hunger to rule. Together, they created the balance that bound both kings and peasants to the same fate. But balance never lasts. One day, a young shepherd named Kael looked upon the burning horizon and felt a strange calling in his chest. He was tired of bowing to the priests who claimed to speak for the gods, tired of a life ruled by dust and sweat.
Why must the gods hold all the fire, he asked. That question, simple and forbidden, spread like a spark among the poor. Soon, whispers grew into rebellion. The people began lighting their own sacred fires without the blessing of the temples. The high priests, terrified, sought to silence Kael. They said he had stolen the flame of the divine. But before they could capture him, a storm swept across Areth, blackening the sky. Lightning struck the great temple, setting it ablaze. The people cried that the god of fire had chosen Kael. The priests called it blasphemy, and so began the War of Ashes, a battle not for land, but for belief itself. For years the desert burned, cities fell, the sands turned black. When the war ended, Kael was gone, and the old gods seemed to vanish with him. But the myths remained, changed, reshaped by the tongues that told them. To the kings who rose after, the god of dust became a symbol of order, obedience, and empire. To the commoners, the god of fire became the spirit of freedom, the flame that could never truly be put out. Generations later, no one remembered the real Kael, yet his name lived on in stories, carved into stone and sung by children around new fires. And though the gods themselves may have been forgotten, their power endured, in the hearts of men who built thrones from dust and in the eyes of dreamers who carried a secret ember of rebellion. For in Areth and in every world that came after, the gods never truly die. They simply change shape, reborn in every myth, every act of courage, and every spark of fire that dares to rise from the dust.